Hello and welcome back to another episode of Track Talk. Today we are joined by Anton at long last. Welcome to the
Hello,
show.
hello. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
I mean, you all may remember Anton from some of the earlier tutorials in the tutorial series, but today Anton is back to showcase his one-of-a-kind track, Lamb.
Yes, that's right. Ta-da!
Yeah,
I guess.
so this track is different in a lot of ways. It's pretty different from a lot of your previous releases. Like it seems that maybe would it be fair to say you've decided to experiment in some different directions?
Well, basically, after my last big release, which was the Taco Truck Adventures, I got a lot of feedback, and one thing that seemed to the people seemed to were some of the things that I chose to really expand upon in this track here, because my tracks have always been, um, although a lot of the time very limited to like certain like rules or like restrictions, but they've still been like a jumbled mess of ideas, just a lot of ideas thrown into a big cooking pot. And when the feedback showed that some things were perceived better than others, I thought, why not just um, like make that a whole track in and of itself.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
And, oh, yeah, that thing is yeah, green lined, sort of animation syncing embodiment of the music. I like to think of it as animating the music. That's how I prefer it.
yeah, yeah, because this is a whole menagerie of different ideas, but it all kind of flows together quite nicely. I mean, this is also something I don't think I recall seeing from you very often, which is very very good artwork, to be honest. Very nice kind of rolling scenery.
Oh, thank you very much. See, I've always liked to draw in school and stuff, and now I'm working. In my work, I have a lot of time to. I work in a kindergarten, so a lot of that is just like sitting down with the children, and I'm like, okay, so let me just draw them, right? That's fun. Let me do that, and I
Yeah,
think I've improved a lot
that's what they
just
do.
doing that. It's what they do. They just sit there and they eat and they drink and they sleep and they draw sometimes.
Nice. So, what's you've spoken a little bit about what kind of led you to this track, but did you have this kind of clear direction right from the outset, like right from when you heard the song, or did it just kind of evolve as you went along?
So I'm always looking for songs that are relatively simple, and have few like tracks on them, like different like a few musical layers to them, because that makes it really easy to create elements to represent each of those layers. And I found that in this song by a band that I really like, Brockhampton. It's a rap group, and yeah, I guess it just sort of evolved because I have a lot of unreleased tracks, with green line green lined scenery, but I mean music syncs, but none of them to the extent of this, which sort of grew out from all my other experimentations with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, why don't you take us through some of the moments that you are speaking about? Because I mean, obviously we can see the scenery here, but the rest of the track is pretty different from this. So,
Yes, this is just an introductory review. I might revisit this later, because I don't know. I'm probably heading in a more colorful direction in terms of scenery. So
yeah, like
hopefully see more.
more kind of integrated, you mean?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, let's play the track and maybe we can talk about some of the features as they come past.
All right. I want to quickly mention the foreshadowing here.
Oh
Anyway,
shit. And one of the things that obviously strikes straight away is that you've left some of LRA's features on during the recording. So,
yes. Yeah.
So what was like the intention behind that?
Well, first I thought, um, first I didn't want it, but then I realized there are things to do with it that are really, really unexplored, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, and I decided to keep it on for parts that even didn't integrate it as well. But this part here, I'd say, is like the best example of that, where you
Yeah, it's
clearly
very
see.
striking visually. Kind of enhances what's already there.
Definitely. And again, going with the music, it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
And
Keep it
what
going. Yeah.
and what I like about if you pause it on one of the parts where like if you just drag it back to where all those lines start to reform, but as the lines overlay and they kind of multi-line in a sense, the gray begins to darken as well. So you get like colorful effects of a gradient.
That's true. It's the only way of radiating things in tracks. And I actually obviously it's been known for a long time, but I figured out that I could use this for my purpose while just shooting the shit with Chuggers, who's not really part of the community anymore, but still is a dear friend of mine.
Yeah, awesome.
So some airtime,
Everyone loves a good fakey spin.
and this is you see this whole track is like I'm trying to merge scenery with this sort of way of syncing. And I think it's done really well here because not only do you see like the lines syncing, like the lines on top here, but if you pay close attention, you can also see that Bosch's movement throughout all of these are basically the same.
Yeah, yeah, and that consistency often in any track in general can help to kind of add to the atmosphere of a track.
Definitely, and the anticipation also makes it interesting when you break up that
Hmm.
expectation.
Oh yeah, that's big in line rider tracks. Because a lot of what makes tracks popular is about expectations and kind of satisfying them in a way. And just if we go back a few seconds, I really like that bit where the lines wave and smack him in the hand contact points. I thought that was pretty creative.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually directly inspired by a moment in a track that where I only used the hand contact point, where it looks like he's actually like clapping on with the music. I was like, how do I replicate that? And yeah, that's how I did it.
That's brilliant. And they have these kind of cramuel jumps.
Just driving along to the music.
Hell yeah. And this is probably the most, well, at least my favorite part of the track.
Yeah,
It's
it's a nugget because if you like Line Rider, then it's going to be interesting, and if not, it's still going to be kind of cool because you see that it's syncing.
Yeah. It's like a really efficient way of syncing as well. Like it's good on a number of different technical levels, but it's just like the idea of recycling the same line exactly the same speed because the music is repetitive. So rather than editing out the music, you've made like your track like auto sync it, which is just like really cool to me.
It emerged entirely out of laziness.
Yep. And it's also it's kind of satisfying anyway. Like just as those claps go by, the line just like smacks into him just at that moment.
I have to be honest though about how nerdy this line really is. Because what I did was I went through every single frame and then I let's say right I made a line and I made it the exact strength so that the nose would always like barely touch the thread.
uh, so you
Which I mean,
perfectly
yeah,
pressured.
sure, it took a lot of time, but I was just listening to podcasts anyway, and it's
Oh
like
yeah, I did exactly the same thing when I'm making. Like, if anyone ever wants to know how like some of us make this like ridiculously repetitive stuff, just find a good podcast and just jam away, depending on how much of free time you have, and tracks just get made.
definitely.
And
So this part was born out of my love for really slow blue manuals, because it's basically it's a game of balancing. It's a balancing
mm,
act, and it's a lot of fun. I'm going to turn off the hit tests now. That
people wondering what those strange dots and cranial positions were just a second ago. If you're interested in that, go check out the Sing tutorial me and Anton made, or you can check out the cranial tutorials I've made. But yeah, it's some stuff to make him stop quickly, basically.
Then with the real, maybe one of the better syncs of the track, probably one of the better ones. This one, boop, it just pops him out without really implying any force.
Yeah, it's very subtle. And then we have this kind
So
of
this part is
yeah.
probably the most different from the rest, but
Yeah, the perspective is really interesting as well. Because the way you've drawn it at times, it kind of looks like it twists like a ribbon almost.
yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Basically, I can teach anyone how to do this. It's not difficult. What I did is I basically just copied the track, then I pasted it below, and then I connected the places because that's basically how you do perspective drawing.
Oh yeah, nice.
And then coming back to the theme or the motive.
So when his hand is held up that entire time, are you just G-welling that?
No, it's a stable position.
Oh really? That's so weird.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that before.
Just, calm down. This is a pretty intense track, so felt appropriate with a very slow ending, especially considering the music.
Totally. Then we have the crazy horse or lamb over here.
Yeah, it looked better when it was smaller, but
Oh, did you just take one of your small lambs and just expand them and put it there? I just realized what you did. I was like, did you intentionally make it like super squiggly as to like be stylistic, or is it just? Now I realize what it is.
It's squiggly because I filled it in with smaller lines.
Okay, yeah.
They're making it bigger.
It looks good either way. Like it looks like it's really contrasted. Which is
Yeah,
cool.
and that's also one. It's not that easy to tell, and it's not something that brings a lot of the depth to the track, really. But throughout the track, there's like a difference in feeling of the syncing because some of it is very like neat and clean, whilst other parts are like very jumbly and messy, and sort of this represents also that contrast there.
Oh yeah, totally.
Best example probably being these lines going here, and like this is like super clean and neat.
Yeah, it's nice.
Followed by
It's great.
So yeah, that's basically this track more or less. Do you have any questions?
I think I've probably asked all the questions I mostly ask. I mean, normally I ask, is there anything about this that you change looking back on it?
Yes, there are. One sync I'm not that happy with, and that's this part. Originally, there were only like one of these in the beginning here, and I think I would have liked to kept it one because it's a bit messy and unnecessary.
Okay.
It looks cool, it does, but yeah. So, right. So my process for this was basically make track that syncs, but not intensely, not like an intense sync, so that I have moments to draw, like that I have things to draw on for the music. And I think at in some parts or some places, I would have later. I would have chosen to focus differently in terms of like track versus scenery. Like maybe I would have liked the scenery to take a larger part, or the track to take a larger part in some places, because it's really an interplay between those two.
Yeah, I think what you have here works well though because it's quite a meditative song at times, but it also has these like it also has a kind of intensity, like a kind of focus to it, and a lot of what you've made just kind of fits with that to me at least.
I'm really glad to hear that. I've been pleasantly surprised with the feedback. I posted this to the Orcampton subreddit where it garnered some views and some really nice comments. So people have been saying that the track looks like what the song feels like at parts, and that's not me just stroking my ego here. That's just what I've experienced, and that's really interesting to me, you know, because just going back to like why I wanted to make this video or the track is basically in I put Trigon, which is like the yeah, track of mine. Check it out, yo. Plug it hard. Um, basically, I released I posted it to another subreddit where a guy whose friend was like a composer, a music composer, commented that, oh, it looks like at times it really shows that you've sort of made the track after what you hear in the music, and that sometimes I hear different things than you, so that's sort of interesting.
Yeah,
So what I find really cool about when you get into like this is pretty intricate syncing. I think that if you like made a ton of people do this in different, like just give them creative freedom, just give them the song and just like let them play it out, then you're gonna get like really different results. But they all have some things in common, or I don't know. It's an interesting thought experiment.
yeah, and that's one of the things that I've come to think about syncing in general is that sometimes, sure, like having very precise, intricate syncs is good, but one of the things that you do here, which is I think sometimes lost, is capturing the atmosphere of the song
Definitely.
that is created, and sometimes it's just as important, or if not more important, to really be conveying the point of the song, because otherwise, what you're making is just mechanical.
Exactly. Definitely. It seems that's like an internal issue that the line writing community has to struggle with because people get people get way too interested in the small details to notice the picture at large, and I myself am very guilty of this. Like
Yeah,
I've spent
I
so
think we
many
all are at some point.
definitely, and I think I think it's very difficult um to set yourself apart from um that mindset because we're all to some degree perfectionistic. So,
Yeah.
but I don't really have any good tips for people and like
Yeah, like I guess like all you could say to people watching this is when you go out and make a track, try, well, obviously, like make what you want, but don't feel like constrained by what other people are making. Um, kind of exist in your own paradigm and just, do you basically.
yeah, because like you can always compare yourself to other people, but those like what you should do is you should compare yourself to who you were the day before because that's really like it's just so sad to see new people joining and be like, oh, I'm disappointed in myself because I can't do this thing that's like that five people in the world care about.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean,
I
it's
don't know.
much more accessible in terms of techniques if people want to learn now. I mean, me and you obviously have taken steps towards making it in such a way. But yeah, like I always feel like it's cool when someone's proud. They learn how to do some of these high level techniques, for example. But it's
Mhm.
not like necessary.
Definitely
And I
not.
think that's definitely been proved by the just by if you look at just going by view count, for example, like people resonate a lot more with tracks that they can actually like relate to or understand. And
Definitely.
I think as a community, if we want to be more widely recognized, then stuff like this is a step in that direction. I mean, people, again, I say like people can make whatever they want, but I mean, we've seen that with a lot of track makers recently who maybe wouldn't necessarily have been known to make tracks that are more like reflective or more maybe like emotional. Like recently, I interviewed Sheldon for his proposal track, which
Yes, yes.
which is like a total
Cool.
paradigm shift away from the kind of stuff that Sheldon's known for. But and again with the views, it's kind of reflected in that. I mean, the track I think has over 5,000 views already, and it's only been out for a few days.
Yep,
So
yep.
I mean, that's just how it's gonna be.
I think the track is both different and similar to what Sheldon like typically does because
Hmm.
and just hear me out.
I agree.
Thing
I
is,
agree.
he takes concepts and he does them really really well. He like really goes into it and he like just tracks it out, um and that's what he did with a. It's basically what spaghetti would have been if I was good back then. Or like, I mean,
Yeah.
not saying I could make it even, but like he's been working on that for so long, and
Oh yeah. It's been like a year, I think, at least. I think one of the
it
things
shows.
I like
True.
about that track is it's like you say, it's like he hasn't left behind who he was. He's just kind of added another layer to
Definitely,
what he brings across, if that makes sense. But I
and
mean,
that's something I've wanted to do for a long time. I want to I want to use my many hours of many hours worth of expertise to do something that not only resonates with me, and I really think that's possible. It's not like I don't think you have to be new at the game in order to make something that people will resonate with because I think you can construct something with more thought and more like intentions that if they get across they will be executed very well. And that's not to say that not it's not to say that like not being good at the game is makes it impossible. It's just saying it's I think it's a different way and I think it's a legitimate way. But yeah,
yeah, for sure. I mean, for myself, I think a lot of us have all been trying to kind of move towards, just finding something new in Line Rider, just finding like a new way to like maybe I don't know if it's just like whether you're just expressing yourself or whether it's just trying not to be pigeonholed. I mean, for me, I kind of felt like with a lot of the tracks I was making that I was just like an automaton, just grinding out the same thing with the different music again and again and again.
yep, yep.
So some of my more recent tracks where it's just me having fun, kind of injecting some of my personality into the tracks. It's just honestly way, way, way more fun than most of the other tracks I've ever made combined. So
Exactly. You have to find that balance.
yeah, and I mean ultimately, just because you make something that you like, you can't really necessarily expect that everyone will like it. So that's just general advice that I tend to always give out on these things. Don't like hunt for views. Like they're nice. It's good that people appreciate you, and like I guess it shows that as we've talked about before, like you're reaching a wider audience. But if you only make that your sole goal, you're probably going to burn out pretty quickly.
For sure. For sure. It's I think you and it's like a weird thing to say, but in order to make something that a lot of people enjoy, you have to sacrifice some of what you enjoy. And it's really about finding the balance between how much enjoyment you should get from your work versus how much you're expecting to get. And for some people, it's really easy to balance those two because you sort of want to do the things that you do, and like just happen to make other people feel really or makes people resonate. But you shouldn't, as you're saying, you should never hunt for that because I don't know. Maybe you should. I don't know. I there's this is a sandbox game, so what I find is that people just project their way of life onto it because there's literally there's no rules. You can do whatever you want, so people
Yep.
ends up doing what they want. And like if what you want is like being a part of something and like being recognized as good, then you just do that, and then suddenly you know you maybe develop some bad culture, but you still I'm not gonna. I've definitely been a part of that process too. But I think we're sort of blurring the lines here between track talk and behind the lines. So let's uh let's
Yeah.
get back on track here.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
this was definitely some off-topic bonus content of the more general philosophical stuff that we talk about behind the lines. So yeah, going back to this track, I mean, I think we've pretty much got through anything unless you have any other particular points you'd like to highlight about the track.
Um, no, it's just well, yeah, I can explain how this curve was, not how it was made, but how why I ended up recycling it.
Sure,
Um,
yeah.
I was like, I'm never gonna do that again. I'm never gonna go frame by frame and adjust the nose to be exactly perfectly on the tip of the sled. So I was just like, shit, like, let's just get him back up there. And I had to redo it because there's a camera sync here. Like,
Oh,
yeah, that's one of the cooler things about this curve, in my opinion, because the camera is like he's always sticking at this side of the screen, but at some point when the curve slopes, he goes to the other side of the screen in the
oh
camera,
yeah, yeah.
and that's actually surprisingly, it's really important to keep in mind, to keep control of like what you're seeing in the track when you're playing it the way you want people to see it, because that allows you to uh, let me give an example, because that allows you to like bounce things off of the side of the screen. It lets you do all kind of fun stuff. So for example here it goes up and down, and then this here splits and goes. You can tell, right?
Yeah.
Probably it's not perfect, but like, yeah, here or something. The camera, and that's where you want it to sync. So that's how you
Yeah.
do it. So okay, now I'm fully. That's it. That's all I've got.
Okay. So, yeah, with that, I guess we will wrap up this episode of Track Talk. Thank you very much for joining us, Anton, and thank you for this beautiful masterpiece you've left us with.
Thank you.
All right, people. This is Anton's face reveal. I mean, I know you've all been waiting
This is it.
for that epic moment. Here he is. He's actually just AI that lives inside LRA. And it's one of those broken versions that JC never released.
Yeah,
Became
I'm
Anton.
just. That's me.
All right, so yeah, if you liked this episode, leave a like down below. If you hated it, then feel free give your opinion. We're always happy to enjoy that democratic comment section that makes YouTube such a great place. And yeah, see ya.